What's up, guys? You are listening to HVAC Masters of the Hustle podcast with your host, J Dub Moneymaker, and welcome to episode 99, you guys. First off, I got a great episode for you guys. Thank you, everyone that reaches out every week to truly tell me how this podcast is bringing you guys to the next level and your company. And for all my new listeners out there, make sure you guys smash the subscribe button because, like I said, this podcast, you guys, is helping thousands and thousands and thousands of people get to that next level. And I say it every podcast, I believe everyone has a Spartan in them. It's my job, my duty, and my obligation to bring that out in you. And man, do we have a great podcast for you guys. As you guys see, I'm here on an on-site training in Virginia. And let's go ahead and welcome the one and only, my good friend, my mentor, Uncle Joe Crisara. How you doing, brother?
How's it going, buddy? I'm doing great. Episode 99. Oh my goodness. One more before I'm one better than 100. That's not bad. So doing great. I'm excited to see your 100. That's going to be an amazing podcast. But 99 isn't bad, though. I'm happy to be here again, and thank you for inviting me so we can help all the professionals in the industry achieve the highest levels of success. Jason, thank you.
Absolutely, brother. And that's what we're here for, right? Is to make sure you guys achieve the highest amount of success possible. Uncle Joe, we talked about this podcast and everything, and I'm really excited about it because my listeners, right? The thing about it is we have a lot of things throughout the day that we need help with. For me, for instance, time management, right? Me being a national sales trainer, having a family, being on site all the time, right? You know, my listeners being comfort advisors, working 12, 14-hour days, technicians doing the same thing. So I really want to hit on time management and what to do to make sure that we're successful.
You know what? It's a great subject because sometimes we become a slave to our schedule and we start chasing our schedule, I would say, as opposed to taking control of it and mastering the schedule. And, you know, you and I can both attest to the fact that if we don't manage a schedule, we wind up not having any customers and we wind up doing a lot of work and not achieving a lot of success, you know. So there's a lot at stake here to what I call staying on the right side of the trouble line. The trouble line is where you get when you work 80% of your time on non-productive activities, which are not revenue generating. You've got to put time toward both that, and of course, you've got your own private time for yourself and your family. Because I don't think anybody's truly successful unless they have their health and their family. I've seen a lot of people destroy their family and their health because of this job, and that doesn't make you successful either. So I'm definitely glad and honored that through my experience of 44 years, I have a little bit longer view of this than maybe some people do. So thank you, Jason, for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. And you've been doing this for much longer than myself. So that's why I wanted to get you on the hot seat to talk about time management, right? So for some of my listeners that are technicians and comfort advisors and dispatchers and maybe business owners, right, that put a lot of hours of operations into their company, into their sales, into, you know, their tech work, whatever they're doing. But what should they do to time? What's the best way to make sure you're not getting burnt out?
Well, you know, the biggest things I can say is that I learned this, you know, when I actually back in the early 90s, I went to a actual live class with Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote the book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I was honored enough to be in the seminar with Dr. Covey. And in that seminar, he covered, you know, big rocks first, that to make sure we're taking care of the big things in our life and the things that make the biggest impact in our life first. And then, you know, he said, if you put a bunch of sand into this bucket and then you try to put the big rocks in there, they don't fit. You put the big rocks in and let the sand form around those rocks, then the whole bucket can be filled and you get more in your life if you do that. So the biggest thing I can say is that it's just like when I talk about booking calls or, even when you're on a sales call, it's having your priorities in the right place. Because sometimes we can start chasing down a rabbit hole, wasting our time that we can never get back in our life. Time is the most precious asset that we have. We can always make more money if we don't have enough money, but you can't make more time, Jason. That's something you can never make more of. Make sense?
Absolutely. Joe, let me ask you, the importance of a routine, right? So talking about time management, everything like that. For myself, I'm not sure if you have a daily routine, but what I like to do in order to get the most out of my day, right, is I have a routine where I start my day. I look at everything that needs to be achieved. I write down everything, just like you said, right? You take your big rocks. I love that analogy that you used right there. But you take your big rocks and you put it into the bucket. You focus on your big revenue stream things first, and then you worry about the little stuff. So I absolutely love that analogy. But Joe, for you, how important is it to keep that daily routine to make sure that you're focused, or a technician's focused, or a comfort advisor is focused on their day?
Well, I think number one rule, the big rocks first. But here's the biggest thing, Jason. Nothing will ever happen unless we schedule it. The biggest things in our life that's got to be successful, you just said it, really. I mean, I could take a page out of your book. If you don't schedule your day, then you become a slave to every dragging you around. So what I do is I always say, well, first I have some coaching stuff I do very early in the morning. On the East Coast, I have 5 a.m. coaching meetings, believe it or not, on Tuesdays. And I get up pretty early every morning, because if I don't have that, then I have that bandwidth at between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, which is to handle different client requests from the night before or the coaching. So I try to leave that there. But then I leave 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock with family time, so we can have breakfast together. We make some eggs. I'll go get some coffee. We have time for my wife and I to have a discussion about what our day is going to be like, and give some time to my family there for an hour, and then back at it right around 8. And then I go. We have several different things sectioned out until about noon, about actually 11 o'clock, around 11 o'clock, and then I have that kind of width given to myself for just if somebody wants to make an appointment the same day, I try to leave 11 to 1 open. And then I got between 1 and 3, believe it or not, again, other appointments. Those are usually sales appointments. I leave for myself between 1 and 3. And then we have a company meeting at 3, right? And then after 3:30 is things like podcast, Facebook, things I don't even consider work. It's like this is like work. Being with you here, I can't. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I have to consider this work.
Right.
It's such a pleasure to be here, and I get more energy from you than I do.
That's what everyone says is, man, Jada, you bring the energy, man. You know how
You
to
do,
just
you
bring
do, you
it.
do. So that's what I try to do. I say, like, after 3:30, it's my time to do any kind of promotional activities that I have fun doing, like Facebook posts or this kind of thing, or podcast. But I have certain times which are like a couple hours. I'm locked in. You try to get an appointment with me. It's like, sorry, Jay, I can't do it at 1 to 3 because I'm locked in. 3 o'clock is I give that time to all my teammates, so they have access to me and they have the half an hour. I mean, it's not like they're indulging themselves in so much time, but they're monitoring me throughout the day too, so they can hear what I'm doing. But I try to make sure I honor those I call bandwidths, to say that. And I would say I tell the same thing with contractors. If you are a salesperson, you could say, well, I could check in with my service team, let's say from 8 o'clock till 9:30 every day, and see how my service team has any leads for me or anything they want me to talk about, any opportunities they may have for me. Then I start taking appointments, let's say 10 o'clock, between 10 and 12 or 10 and 1. And then I say, okay, I'm going to say, no, give myself a break and take a little lunch and go between 2 and 3, and then 3 and 3 and 5. And then you say, okay, well, that's over. I got family time now. But if you don't have any calls, here's the cool part. If you don't have calls, then that gives you an inventory of the most valuable asset I think we have, which is more time. And we could talk about that too. How do you fill in that garbage time where nothing's happening,
Absolutely.
especially this time of year? I got some ideas for you there too. And but I think that, like you said, Jason, schedule it. Even if nothing is in that schedule, say that I'm available for this time. It's weird when you tell the whole company that I'm available for you between these 2 hours or these 3 hours or whatever. They will fill it up. They will find opportunity for you if you let people not. Now, if you don't put yourself on the schedule, don't expect anybody to find something for you to do or find opportunities for you. Does that make sense, Jay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes sense. So talking, you said you had a couple ideas that you would like to share. Can you go ahead and share those, Uncle Joe?
Well, I think it surrounds the fact that selling, and you probably know this better than anybody, a guy who's successful as you. I believe that sales is a team sport.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think that Jason Walker or Joe Crisara could ever, or even Rick Picard or any of these guys, can ever stand on their own. It's like the team, in a way, we're riding on the wave of our team, and we're drafting behind the team in a way. So that's how a good salesperson does it. They don't put the pressure on themselves. They work within the team, and it makes it easier because you get more layups. You get easier. You get
Oh,
easier.
absolutely.
You get easier buckets because you're in a position to succeed. And so what I always do first of all is I try to have a meeting with my sales team, my service team that I'm working with. I try to make sure I maintain connection with the service guys who are on my team and let them know my availability for today. If I tell them I'm full, I say go ahead and tell me. If you need to get a hold of me, call me. But I'll probably have to, take 20 minutes if I'm really busy. If I'm not busy, I'll say, hey, listen, I got a big opening between now and 11 o'clock is my next thing I've got. So please try to fill that in for me. And if they knew that you had a problem, that's number one, contact your team to see what you can do. So that's number one, is to let the team know when you're busy and that it may be a few minutes when you call me, so they see that respect that you're communicating. Because Jason,
Absolutely.
I think there's three things about a good salesperson and a good leader. Number one, you have to have competence. If you don't competently able to close the deal, people are not going to call you on your team to help because they don't think you can help them. Number two, character, that if you say you're going to be available or you say you're going to be busy, just let them know and have good character. Don't lie, say you're going to be available and you're not. That's an important factor. And number three is the communication, which is really where the job comes in when it's not busy. Now you have an asset and you have more time to communicate with your team. And here's what we can do. Here's some things we can do. Again, check in, let your team know your availability for the day, first AM. Every comfort advisor should just make it always make that call and make your service team a priority, because if you make them a priority, you'll be the first thing they think of when they see opportunity on new duct systems or new HVAC systems, or even tankless water heaters, whatever you could offer them, right? So I think the
Absolutely.
team will think of you when you think of them. So if you want something from your team, which is you want opportunity, give your team that opportunity first to talk to you, and then they will give you opportunities to sell equipment. Number two, if you've got service people on your team that are underperforming in their own job and their own service or maintenance calls they do, I would say you can do a couple things. And back in the old days, I would say just drive to one of their calls and just show them how to do a lead turnover. So show them what it would take to go on a call where you're doing maintenance and tell a customer, hey, we could put air quality on this old piece of equipment, or we could just replace the equipment and you get free air quality. Have you thought of that?
Hmm.
Wow, I never thought of that. What would that cost? And then when you go into a lead turnover. So if you show people how to do it now, in today's technology, there's two ways of doing that, not just driving out there like the old days. Now you can actually, like we're talking on an electronic platform here. Who's to say we couldn't be doing this with a maintenance tech in a customer's home? And you could say, okay, let's look at the duct system. Let's look at the air quality. Let's look at everything they've got here. And you could say, be right along, quote unquote, on a tune up with my service tech to see if I can help them see opportunity that they normally would have a blind spot to. Because
Hmm.
in training your team, they become better, but you also find opportunity. Because to me, the best opportunity, Jason, is with the customers you're currently working with, as opposed to some new customer that is calling for some kind of lame reason or whatnot. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, Joe, talking to business owners right now, real quick, some business owners want their employees' life, right? I've worked for business owners that wanted me from 6 a.m. to midnight, pretty much. So with that being said, talking to business owners, maybe someone that it just wants everything out of their employees, right? What is some good advice for them so they don't burn out their company or their team, right? Because one thing for me, talking to my listeners and everything, or talking to my business owners as a comfort advisor, right? I didn't really like when I'm home. I get home at 9 o'clock at night. I start eating dinner. Technician turns over a call, and I'm demanded to go out there at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, right? To me, I feel like the day is over. And just because potentially, and talking about install availability, right? If there's nothing on the board for tomorrow and we're fully booked, do you think the comfort advisor should run that? I know urgency is there, everything like that, but looking more of your employees, right? Do you want to burn them out?
No, I think I would say that is one of the astounding things that if I talk about the guy who sells, he averages he 11 million a year before, now 12 million last year, right? That's 250,000 a week the guy is doing, right? And
Crazy.
if I said how many hours is he putting, you probably think he's putting in 80 hours, but the truth is his boss doesn't care. I think the biggest thing we have to get rid of is sort of like a 9 to 5 mentality. It's like
Absolutely.
if you're gonna make like he does, probably, he made $1 million on his W-2 last year. So he he made more than almost every owner in the country did, right? But
Absolutely.
the way he's going to do it is not going to be through a typical 9 to 5 schedule. So what he'll do is he'll be very careful that block out time to say if he does do that, like he'll leave nights for himself where he will work late like that. But then he'll say, hey, on these other nights, I'm going to hand it off to Ryan or Dan, my other guys who are sales guys, and they'll kind of take that shift so that whoever's guys are on call, you may just be on call when your guy's on call on that aspect of things. And of course, even then, when they don't just call Rick at 9 o'clock at night, they like, hey Rick, I have a customer who wants to purchase a furnace tonight. Like they don't just say, I got a guy who's interested in a furnace. The service guy has been taught and trained because Rick has done what we talk about. He monitors those guys during the daytime when they're not busy. He'll just sit there and watch them do a maintenance call and then tell them how to do a lead turnover. So by the time they do it, when the service person says, we could fix this boiler or this furnace, or we could replace it. What would you like to do?
Mhm.
And then, the customer's like, well, how much would a new one be? Well, we'd have to have my quality control supervisor come out tonight to do that. If you're going to do it tonight, I could call him. But if you're not going to do it tonight, I could schedule for tomorrow. So what would you prefer? Yeah, if you can call him tonight, I want a new one tonight. Well,
Mhm.
are you sure? Because I don't want to bother him. He's got a full schedule. No, I want him to come out tonight. So if I call him, what would happen? Yeah, we get this thing done. Okay, let me call him. And then Rick, he would vet the guy too to make sure that I'm basically selling the job. Now, in today's technology, Jason, you don't got to leave your house. That's the cool part. Via Zoom, you could just say, hey, let me get my PowerPoint. I'll show you the prices. And then
Mhm.
Rick just presents them via PowerPoint right from his own desk at his house and sells. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times I'm hearing right now people around the country are using Zoom to present PowerPoints. And I have a company in the Midwest where the whole company did like 6 million the year before, but in 3 months of the last three months of the year, they did 6 million, and they did over 12 million for the year because they use Zoom now on these turnovers instead of going out there at midnight or whatever type of thing. So there are some creative aspects that will save you time driving and traveling around the county where you can just do them via Zoom. And I'll tell you what, when a guy says, I want to make a purchase, and if you say, well, I can come out there or I can show you on Zoom right now, uh, what do you think a customer would say if he's ready to make a purchase? Yeah, if you show me right now, I'm ready to go. All right, let me show it to you right now. And then they just show it to them, and that's it. So a lot of things
So,
like
so you think it's that easy, Joe, to sell over on a Zoom meeting? I've never done it,
well,
but I mean, I
what
know
we're finding,
Rick Picard.
it is. We're finding. Listen, I'm as old school as you can get, right? But uh,
Yeah.
and I'm not. I'm not like trying to cut new technology.
Yeah,
Because I would have argued that 2 years ago, I say before last year, I would have argued that no, the in-house experience is something that is absolutely necessary. We can't, so you're not going to change that. But what I'm finding is that if you ask the customer, well, I could do two things. I could come out there right now and probably about an hour, 45 minutes before I get out there, and we can show you the price to get it done. It is 9 o'clock at night, or I could do it tomorrow, or I could do it via Zoom right now and just show you the prices if you were ready to move forward. And the customer's like, yeah, I'm ready to move forward. All right, so if I showed you the prices via Zoom and you liked what you saw, what would happen? Yeah, we just get the thing done. Now, of course, that would be a sale. I would say definitely you want to emphasize the monthly investment over the complete total price. I wouldn't change my options. It would still be, duct work and everything else. I still have now the service guy would have to give me the report about everything that's out there, the size of
absolutely.
he'd have to make sure he does a little extra work out there tonight to make sure we do this. And then you make a quality presentation via Zoom. And it's like a slingshot is the best way I can put it, because the
Just like
momentum.
your logo.
You're right. You're right. It's got that arrow. You got it, brother. It's got the bow and arrow effect. That snap and let it go, because
Yep.
it's moving. This thing doesn't work. We can either fix it, we could replace it. Fixing it means you're going to pay twice. You're going to fix it,
Yep.
and then you're going to fix it, and then you're going to fix it. Meanwhile, you're paying higher utility bills, and the price is increasing of furnaces and ACs. However, if you replace it, you're going to save several $1,000s on the price increase, utility bills, repairs, and you get a new furnace put in. It includes air quality. So what do you think? You want to fix it and spend more money, or you want to replace it and save money? What would you like to do? And a significant amount of people would choose to replace it. But, here's the thing. Do we want to run out there tonight? Do we want to come out tomorrow morning? You might lose the job. Or does somebody want to see it via Zoom? And, here's the thing I would say about it. If I asked you in December of 2019, how many people knew of Zoom? The average, like your mom or something like that, wouldn't know of Zoom, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Now everybody knows Zoom is like McDonald's. Does that make sense
Yeah.
there, Jason? It's
Oh
like
yeah, absolutely.
it's probably more popular than a Big Mac is now. We probably know people probably know Zoom more than they do Big Mac. So that's why I think there is changes in this industry that we have
Do
to
you
be
think
more aware of. I think on that than we used to be.
do you
You know?
think our industry is going towards that direction where we're doing online sales in the future, or do you think we're really going to stay in house?
I can see a day where we will send people out to calls that would be, even on a sales call, a technician would go out there, do the due diligence, and say, hey, let me look your equipment over anyway as a service to you. And then say, wow, you do need a new furnace. And then confirming that, yeah, I can see why you think you need one now. This one does need it. If you want the prices, I'm just a technician. We have my supervisor with the prices ready to go. I can see a day. I can see this where this is going to be a key component, and where even those virtual sales calls could come into place, where the customer could do some of that work. Take photographs, pictures, and videos, and do true touchless calls. Now, I actually know of some companies, Jason, that have a whole call center of salespeople that do this virtually, that don't even go on the road anymore. So,
Wow.
yes, I think the future is here. When I've seen some of these companies, now I would have been in denial myself. If you asked me in December of 2019 if I thought this was going to happen, I remember myself writing Facebook posts like, that's not going to happen. But then it's happening. So
We're
I
talking about it, right?
exactly. So if I'm talking about it, I wouldn't be talking about it if people weren't doing it, right? That's the key thing. And
Absolutely.
some pretty big companies like Gettle and other companies around the country that Ken Goodrich and some of these people started a trend, and it's picking up around the country, and people are picking up on it. And I'm not saying the in-house thing will be completely replaced, but I think we have to be flexible in our present. If you make a good presentation via Zoom, and maybe that's something we could do a thing on, and just how to make that presentation via Zoom,
Absolutely.
because that's a skill of its own. That's not something that we are naturally good at. How can we have that communication that like being able to connect with people. One thing you can do with your service techs is let them teach you about the customer, right? You go out to, so you get
Yep.
this call and you can say, hey, Jeremy, tell me more about the family. Who's the one who first found the heating problem out here or whatever type of a thing? And facilitate that conversation so you can start learning about the people who are using it. It's still possible to make that connection. I mean, people like you, they feel like they're connected with you and me, even though they never met us before in person. They still feel,
Mhm.
because they see us on video, that there's still a connection, that they like and trust us. Some of them do, so that I think that it proves that that connection can be made, and you can begin to develop trust in somebody that you never even met before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense, Joe. One thing that I really like that, that you do very well, and I've noticed in order to be a top performer or closer, right, or to be, you're 1% in this industry as a comfort advisor, you do it very well is you turn your question back onto the homeowner, right? So for instance, you know, when I'm talking about compressors and over amperage and everything like that, I use terminologies that a homeowner is going to understand, right? So I talk about a car. So, hey, when you're driving that car on the road and your RPMs are in the red, let me ask you a question, Bobby. How long is the car going to last before the engine goes out, right? Oh, well, it's not going to last that long. Well, today's a 70-degree day. Now let's talk about driving that car on a 100-degree day up a hill, right? Now, do you think that engine's going to last longer or shorter? Well, it's going to last shorter, right? Man, you're very smart. 2 for 2, right? You build them up, right? But Joe, you're very good at putting it on a homeowner, right? One thing that I think you're famous about saying is, you understand that, right? I mean, you got that famous line after every conversation, and you look at, whoever you're talking to, and you're like, oh, you understand what I'm talking about, right? So you put
Yeah,
them back
yeah,
on the
yeah,
spot,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because you want that answer, you want that commitment.
yeah, does that make sense? And that kind of thing, the little triggers
Yeah,
I
does that make sense?
yeah, like,
Exactly.
or what would happen if I did that?
Hmm.
If I could do that, what would happen then? Like I'll tell people something like, like go ahead and ask me if I take credit. Joe, do you take credit cards? Ask me that.
Hey, Joe, do you take credit cards?
Well, I mean, what if I said I took American Express, Visa, MasterCard, and Discover? What would happen then? So
I mean, we might potentially have some business, right?
exactly. So you know what? I don't know what it's been, but maybe like you, we've learned how to make. I always say this: making statements end conversations, asking questions continue the
Oh
conversation.
yeah.
You
Oh
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I think I've said that
Well,
before, and I think that's what we got to remember, that when we deliver, like even a cracked heat exchanger, you can't just say your heat exchanger is cracked and that's the end. I got to condemn your furnace. You got to be like, let me ask you a question. How important is the safety of your family?
yep,
It's
absolutely.
it's really important. Why? Well, right now you have a fracture in the carbon monoxide containment system, and carbon monoxide is going into your home. What are your thoughts about breathing partial amounts, small trace amounts of carbon monoxide for your family? How do you feel about that? Not good. What can we do? Well, what if I said I had some solutions to get the thing taken care of, where we could have a new furnace and we'd remove that right away today, get that done for you today? What would happen if I could clear the schedule and get that done?
Hmm.
What would happen at that point? See, now you're moving the conversation forward, and that's the thing. Everything you talk to start out with time management, right? And really, what we're talking about is making sure that the questions you ask are getting vertical traction moving forward. They're not
Absolutely.
they're not going horizontal. I can see so many times people ask a question like somebody says, your price is too high. Why do you think that? And now we have a conversation about why somebody thinks that.
Exactly.
It's like it's a horizontal conversation. It's not
Yeah, you're
going.
digging your own grave, right?
You're letting the customer dig in deeper actually by doing.
Absolutely.
So instead of saying, why do you think we're more expensive? The better thing would be say, well, here's what I can tell you. We are a higher investment, but it's an investment in your family. How important is your family? It's really important. Well, that's why it's a higher investment. So what should we do? So you're getting
Hmm.
traction moving forward. I think the biggest thing that when you see good salespeople compared to mediocre or bad ones, number one, bad salespeople don't ask questions at all. They make statements.
Yep.
Mediocre salespeople ask questions, but they ask questions that don't really get traction. they haven't learned which ones are going to move us forward. They ask questions that move us sideways. And good people like you and other people that I've seen, Brett Buckley and Eric Picard, all these famous people that I see out there. I mean, if I had their money, I would throw mine away. You know what I'm saying? But if I had your money, I'd throw mine away probably. But if I had books, I'd throw mine away for sure, no doubt about it. But when I see the really good salespeople, they have something in common, and what's in common is that the question moves it forward, and that's where you spend less time. That's why you talk to Rick Picard, the guy who sells that much time. He probably works in front of the customer about 36 hours a week in front of customers. He does a little bit behind the scenes, but I would say puts in an average of 54 hours a week. 45 to 50 hours a week, depending on what time of season it is. I don't think that's in today's world unreasonable to say you're going to make $1 million a year and put in 54 hours a week. Something
Absolutely
like that.
right.
But that's 55 hours of vertical traction is what I would say there. So it's, and the time he's working, which believe me, he'll sit home until 10 o'clock some days because he's got a little baby daughter. She just was newborn. He wants to spend that time with her. He'll come home early and spend time with her. He's very cognizant of that time with his family. But the answer to your question, I guess, is that big rock of that 9 o'clock call would be something that I would say I was available for, and I would arrange to be available for it. And if I was available for it, you can better believe your ass I'd be there. But if I wasn't available for it, I'd say, isn't that Dan's responsibility, or whose responsibility is it that's supposed to be on call? Now, I might save a teammate and go do that once, but I'm not going to be doing it throughout the entire year. We're going to make sure that, and I don't think the boss of your company would want that either, to burn out your salesperson. And here's what I'd prefer to see. I prefer to see people working 24 hours and making the same amount they make in 40 hours.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
I mean, I'd love to see people work less time and make more money. And I the owner of the company should think that way himself. I should want to work less time and make more money too. Not just the technicians and the. So I know it's weird for today. The younger guys say, I don't want to work as many hours maybe, but you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you're getting traction and doing something with the time that you do have it. I think time is not the thing we should measure our work experience by. It's results. I would say we got to
Absolutely.
measure that,
I would have to agree with you. Results, right? So making sure you guys are taking advantage of the time of, we'll say, slow season, or not even slow season, but maybe there's 2 calls on your schedule or 1 call on your schedule, right? Instead of going home after you run your first appointment or your only appointment, right? There's so much opportunity for you guys to do, for my listeners, right? Go self-generated leads, because it's not always gimme, right? It should be, what am I going to do to help grow my company to the next level, right? Also, on top of that, when you go back to your installs, you get to make sure that what you promise gets delivered, right? So at the end of the day, we're talking about not shortcutting our process, but time management, right? Now,
Exactly.
talking about time management, if we could close the doors when they say I want multiple estimates, right? And we could show time management by showing them multiple estimates, right? Because at the end of the day, homeowners want a time management too, right? They don't want to sit with us for 6 hours with 3 different comfort advisors, right? So again, you guys, if you guys don't want to go back to a call, what are you guys doing to set yourself up for success, right? Getting multiple estimates, while instead of sitting at home playing video games, right? Really building your book, going to those installs so you could get handwritten letter recommendations or video testimonials is something that I've been doing lately, right? The response on that stuff will cut down the time so you don't have to go back, and you guys could do same day closes.
Well, I tell you what, you just mentioned the gold mine there too. Calling your opportunities you already closed before, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I had for our standpoint, when we grew like 68% last year at our company here, but I would say it's because half of that growth was calling customers we already did business with and letting them know, hey, we want to let our best customers know we have this new event coming up, or we have Joe's got availability for a travel spot if you're interested in that. And we just filled that stuff right up because your current customers, the one, if they're already happy with you, they're going to definitely do that or give you referrals. I would say the other half of the thing was going back to our old customers, letting them know we have opportunities to help them more, but also let them know that, hey, is there anybody else that could, you know, would be valued by the kind of service that we provide, and that's how we got the other half of our growth, I think, because of that. So I think working with your current set tech, isn't it funny how the assets are always right under our feet, like the
Oh
current
yeah.
the current technicians that are working with you. You got opportunity there. Let's look and see what they're doing to get their turnover rate better. Let's go on a couple calls with them virtually or really to see if you can teach them how to do better turnovers. And then you could always go back to your old customers, tell them thank you for the purchase, and inspect the installations that you sold to make sure they got what they promised. And of course, that would be a great opportunity to ask what did they think of the experience. I thought it was a great experience. If I asked you to give me a review, what would happen then? Yeah, I'd give you a review. Okay, good. Now, do you have any friends or family who could use a service like this? Oh, yeah, my grandfather needs this. Really? How could I get to meet him? Right. And so I'm a big proponent on salespeople self-generating referrals from their
Oh yeah.
customer. If you're not going back to your current customers that you sold, seeing if they're happy, getting a review, asking for, letting them know that the highest honor that you can get is when one customer refers another one. You got plenty of activity to do. Going to the neighbors, I know that comfort advisors go to the neighbors of the people they sold and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, just so you know, we put this furnace in 2 months ago, or just yesterday, whenever it is, and we wanted to give you a coupon for a free furnace tune-up because of the mess we had in the front yard and things like that. So we wanted to give this to you for free." Giving out coupons to 8 neighbors in the same subdivision.
Mhm.
I know it sounds stupid, but you keep doing
So
those
really,
schedules. Down there,
really quick, Joe, before I forget about this, because you just mentioned something that was really good right there. So one thing that as a comfort advisor, right? If you start going to the neighbors, right, and you start happily involving neighbors. So I ended up, there was a time where I went to a neighbor's house, ended up giving them a coupon, right? We sold them a system too. So now we have 2 people on the street. Same thing, ended up going to that house, ended up selling them. So they saw me there basically 6 days in a row on that street, right? My install truck, myself. So what I wanted to do was I ended up going to the last neighbor or the last person that I involved. And I said, hey, here's what I'll do. Because they were talking when I was going through my questionnaire with them, they were talking about Bunko and having all these neighbor events and parties and stuff like that because they lived in the neighborhood for 30 years, right? So they knew everyone. So I said, here's what I have for you guys. If you're willing to allow me to throw a party at your house, I'll pay for everything, cocktails, wine, whatever it is, but we have a party at your house. And for every appointment that I schedule, if I end up happily involving that client, because we know that your issues here, we know they have the same issues, right? So if we could go ahead and have a party or an event, whatever you guys want to call it, again, I'll purchase everything. For everything that's sold off of your party, I'll kick you $500, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
get 12 people there. I'm going to close at least 6 of the 12, right? 50%. They just made $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw your truck and your car for 6 days or for a week or for a month, right? So that's the importance of canvassing the neighborhood because there's much more bigger events that you guys could get to.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. It's like that relationship. It's equity, but it's up to us to make that equity pay off. It's not going to happen automatically. It has to. It does take an effort to make it happen, but it's an effort that's I found when I ran my company. My yellow page ad about the size of a postage stamp. Most of everything was exactly what you talked about there, which was the relationship between my customer and me. And we did the same thing with we had the subdivisions where they'd have a town, or what do you call it, a clubhouse, and we'd say, hey, let us throw neighborhood a party, summertime party, and of course, but let us sponsor everything. We'll contribute to the subdivision, the association, the homeowners association. We'll contribute $500 for every system we sell. And again, you should see the recommend. Everybody's recommending our company and pretty much selling it for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that same type of thing. That's what I didn't want to take over the whole, like you live in near Sacramento. I didn't want to take over the whole city of Sacramento or whatever. I just want to take over one neighborhood at a time. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying? Or,
Oh yeah.
like
Absolutely.
it's too much to say, give me all of Los Angeles. But what I would like to do is take over one area where I could be like, I'll be the all-star in a small area, and then I'll take over little areas at a time. Next thing you know, those little areas equal a big area. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So, Uncle Joe, we talked about time management, making sure that we're progressing towards the end of our goals, right? We need to make sure that whatever we're doing with our time, we're being proactive, productive, right? Uncle Joe, I got listeners, as you know, from business owners, dispatchers, service technicians, comfort advisors, and comfort advisors and technicians, installers, right? What would you like for them to get out of this episode of HVAC Masters of the Hustle?
Well, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is try to spend your time getting traction to what your objective is. Try to spend time. Ask yourself: is the area I'm headed to a horizontal area where it's really not making any difference, or am I moving vertically toward the objective? Whether if you're an installer, the objective is completing the job and making sure that that the job is done the way it was promised or better, right? If you're a salesperson, the objective is let me help people pick out something where we can get this job finished and completed. Because giving prices is not the objective. Getting the work done is the objective. So
Mhm.
sometimes we lose track of the objective. We start to think it's just to get my hours in, or just that's the objective. The objective is not to stay employed. It's to achieve
Yeah,
something for your customer, right? That's it's somebody who achieves things for their customers and their company. You have a job for life. You're always going to be employed. You don't got to worry about staying employed at that point. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Uncle Joe, for being a guest in the hot seat, brother. I greatly appreciate everything you do for myself as well as the industry to bring everyone to the next level.
Thank you for a great number 99, Jason. Thank you so much. And we will see everybody here again next time. I really appreciate it.
All right.